Hello, everybody. Human beings do not like discomfort. Discomfort of any kind. Emotional discomfort, physiological discomfort, hunger, thirst, pain, boredom, fatigue, anxiety, restlessness. We don't like discomfort. But it is a fact of life. It is far more a fact of life than pleasure and comfort. Even if we try to make ourselves comfortable, that comfort becomes uncomfortable. If we laid in the softest, most ergonomic bed, in the most comfortable position possible, eventually that stillness would become stiffness, would become soreness, would become pain, or the stillness and the quietness would become boredom. Disquiet of mind and body, discomfort of mind and body is guaranteed in life. In fact, it's far more constant than comfort and pleasure and calm and serene. The first step is accepting the fact that it is. It is a given in life, and it will pass. It comes and it goes in many different forms, for moments, hours. Some are in situations where they're in constant and chronic discomfort, especially those with physical issues. The rest of us just have to deal with the pangs of periodic unease and distress. And what do we reach for? Anything we can get our hands on. A little bit bored, flip on the television. A little bit anxious, light up a cigarette. Pour a glass of wine. A little bit of pain, throw it on an over-the-counter. We always have to seek thrilling, compelling, exciting situations to fill something in us, some restlessness. We have to go on some grand adventure or go out and socialize. We can't just sit and be still, and we certainly cannot sit and be with our own discomfort of any kind very well at all. Which leaves us in a state where we are chronically doing one of two things. We're either adding suffering on top of our pain. Pain is the givens in life. Pain of discomfort, emotional or physical, as is a given in life. But then resisting it, trying to fight it, trying to quell it, quench it, make it disappear, being profoundly uncomfortable or disquieted by your own discomfort, unable to, biting your nails, just counting down the seconds till it goes away. Resisting just makes the seconds drag longer and longer and adds pain, compounds suffering on top of your existing pain. Hyper-focusing on it adds suffering on top of your existing pain, or we pleasure chase, always seeking outside of us for an avoidance coping mechanism, some substance, some distraction, some pill, intoxicating individual, media, medium, something that is going to dissipate our discomfort, whatever brand it is in. And this can lead us into such an extreme that we become reliant, even addicted to these external strategies anytime we sense a bit of discomfort. We become addicted to external sources to try and quell that discomfort, and potentially full-on addicts. In the literal sense of the term, an addict, unable to cope with your own discomfort, physical or emotional, to an external substance. You become a slave to that substance or activity in order to calm your physiological or psychological and emotional discomfort, even though it is brief and it is passing, even if it is chronic. Relying on external substances, anything we can get our hands on, to just make it stop as quickly as possible, immediate gratification, just make it stop because we dislike it so, can leave you with an addiction and a dependency to outside things. Discomfort, unease, unpleasant states of mind and emotion, physical pain, all of these things are normal, unfortunate, but expected parts of the human existence. We can't escape them, trying to avoid them, trying to either resist them, adding suffering on top of our pain, hyper-focusing on them, amplifying them, or trying to drown them in whatever we can get our hands on to fix the problem as quickly as possible. All three of these techniques will cause further problems. We need to learn to accept that a certain level of uncomfortability is going to be a given in life throughout your days, every day. A certain level of unease, a certain level of physical distress and discomfort is simply a fact of existence. And whether you are internally unsettled or physically unsettled, you have to learn to become settled. There are healthier mechanisms of trying to down-regulate and escape the sufferings of your own emotions or physiologic states, such as breath work and meditation and yoga, gentle exercise, walking in the park, distraction, healthful things like that. But in a way, they are still attempting to escape pain and seek pleasure, seek relief from discomfort. We don't appreciate the slightest states of discomfort. Just like building resilience and strength to withstand anything else in life. Building tolerance for discomfort and disquiet is a muscle. It's a skill you can build. It is a threshold. Like walking around with bare feet, bare baby feet. At first you feel every rock, every stone, every bit of sand beneath your feet. Eventually you get calluses, and only a big rock really rocks you. You get tough. You don't have such thin skin. You need to learn to sit with boredom. Sit with hunger. Sit with agitation. Sit with anxiety. Sit with headache. Sit with joint ache. Sit with pain. Sit with reasonable levels. Given normal, expected levels of physical and mental and emotional discomfort. And eventually your threshold for doing so will get higher and higher and higher and higher and higher, the more that you can accept it as a part of nature, a part of your day-to-day. Your pain threshold of all types will become higher. You won't have such thin skin. But you need to practice sitting with it and stop trying to run to solutions outside of yourself, to be dependent on escaping, avoiding, or hyper-focusing on your pain. Don't make yourself suffer worse than you're suffering, and don't chase pleasure. Pleasure chasing only serves to get you into dangerous territory. It forces you away from internally calibrating oneself, learning to sit with the totality of the human experience and be able to emotionally and physiologically navigate it on your own, with your own tools, using emotional crutches. And it can become a dangerous habit where you just become a pleasure chaser, hopping from moment to moment to moment, pleasure to pleasure to pleasure to pleasure, and we need a higher and higher and higher and higher and higher dose of whatever it is that we're using to cope. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Whatever it is that you're reaching for outside of yourself, whatever pleasure and thrill you're using, you will need a higher and higher and higher and higher dose to quell the disquiet, and you'll develop thinner and thinner and thinner skin, so that almost everything becomes disquieting unless you're in your thrill spot, in your pleasure spot. Everything else falls short, and it becomes an obsession or an addiction, and it becomes very disruptive to the rest of your life. So learn to accept that discomfortable feelings of all types are a part of life, and stop pleasure chasing, hopping from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to try to avoid it. We try to cling to pleasure, but all we succeed in doing is making ourselves frustrated, because whatever it's supposed to promise, pleasure simply does not last. But if I'm willing to stay in the moment as it flies by and say this moment is beautiful, I won't grab it, I'll let it go. We try to cling to pleasure, but all we succeed in doing is making ourselves frustrated, Because whatever it is supposed to promise, pleasure simply cannot last.